Because Rich Dad said real estate is wealth. Those that control the real estate control the world. And you will find that today. So I'm not saying you should invest in real estate, but if you understand the word real estate from Espanol, real estate is real, royal estate. That's why the rich invest in real estate. Idea was not to make money. The idea was to train my mind to think that I want 100% debt.
We're talking about debt that's paid by a tenant.
Yeah.
You know, debt that's paid off by somebody else.
I signed up for a little real estate course. I've told this story before. I get tired of listening to myself. It was $385. It was 3 days. That was the start. So I signed up, signed my name, sat down on the course. 3 days later, at the end of the course, he was a great instructor because he was a real estate investor. He didn't need the money. And that's when you know the guy is real, because you could tell he didn't need the money. He liked teaching. He liked inspiring people. So it was just like my rich dad. He says, you don't need the money. So then the next thing he said at the end of the program, he says, when you leave this program, it's 3 days, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, he says, your education begins now. What you do at the end, as Kenny says, you get through the process of the 3 days and you start again. That's the process. So he says, at the end, when you end Monday morning, your job is to look at 100 properties. 100 properties in 90 days. Take everything I've taught you and look at 100 properties. That was the start. So naturally, 30 guys and 30 guys, 35 guys in the class, they all say, okay, yeah, we'll all do it. We all break into little teams. And as you know, by Tuesday, they all quit because they're too busy. You know, they got through the school, they didn't start here again. But there's 3 or 4 other guys, and we stayed through it, and we went to real estate agents, went through the little files. It was really antiquated ways of MLS, multiple listing services. We were looking for little dinky deals, small deals, because that's all we could afford. We didn't have any money. So we kept looking, you know, I'll go knocking on doors at real estate agents, and, you know, realtors, they're not the best investors, are they?
No. They're all focused on commissions, normally.
And I go knocking on the doors, and the first thing they say to me, you can't do that here. This is Hawaii. You can do that in mainland, in California, Nebraska, but you can't do it here in Hawaii. And that's the first thing one of the first things my advisor said is that's what losers will tell you. You can't do that here. Look, somebody is doing it here. May not be the real estate agent, but it might be you. So I knocked on the doors. We'd find these deals. We had to go look at them, and we had to write down. You know, it was a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 65. Back then it was $65,000. It was a lot of money in Hawaii. Now they're $4 million. And so at the end of 90 days, we had 100 of these. And it was day and night. We just kept going until we got it done. And that was the process.
That's right.
At the end of the process, I'd gone through 100 deals. And it was like, wow. I learned more going through the process, talking to real estate agents, knocking on doors, looking at different properties. And finally, I was desperate. This guy says, well, I got what you're looking for on the island of Maui. Now, most people think Maui is too expensive. I said, how can that be? How can Maui be affordable? But that's your block. So I flew over to Maui. I found this little 1-bedroom, 1-bath condo right in Ka'anapali, the richest place on earth. Little 1-bedroom, 1-bath condo for $18,000. I went, holy mackerel. But the deal was I could not use any of my money. That was, the advisor said, I'm going to teach you so you'll never need to use your money again. If you can raise capital, you'll always be a rich man. So I said, okay. So I go to this little $18,000 unit, little dinky thing. $18,000. I said, what's the price on it? He says, I mean, how much do I put down? He says, $2,000, or $1,800, 10% down. It was a foreclosure. I broke out my credit card and I bought it. So I had no money in the deal, and I made $25 a month. No money in the deal, $25 a month. And my brain went, it shook. I went, oh my God, I'll never need money again. I can never say I can't afford it. And I can never say I can't do that. I went, oh my God. And that's how I got started. So Kenny took off after that, and we still make millions of dollars. When the market crashed, we made even more. But the process is the same, right?
Yeah, it's absolutely the same.
1-bedroom, 1-bath. How many units did you do last?
Last year, about 1,000 units.
Same process, but you have to learn the process.
As a matter of fact, if you think about it, the whole system is designed to use bank financing. I mean, you know, all these people that are working so hard are actually putting all their money into the bank. Well, those deposits are a liability. They're an expense to the bank. So if you put money in the bank, it's an expense to the bank because they have to pay you interest.
I have 100% debt. My first property was $18,000. I put $2,000 down with a credit card, and I was making $25 a month.
I think that's the best example, Robert, because essentially what you did was you didn't use any of your own money. So the only costs that you had was whatever your debt was and whatever it cost the $1,800 on your credit card was.
Right. But the idea was not to make money. The idea was to train my mind to think that I want 100% debt. Most people, I want to get out of debt. And what we're saying here is the debt pays all your expenses and gives you some income. That's really as simple as it gets. So we started with this. So if I have no money in the deal, it's 100% debt, and I'm making $25, what is my return on investment?
It's infinite, right? I mean, you basically have no investment and you're making $25 a month. The reason why we want so much debt is because if I'm borrowing right now, I'm borrowing at say 4 or 4.5%, and inflation is say 4.5%, then I'm using basically your money, pension fund,
mutual funds, savings.
Insurance, savings. I'm using your money to hedge inflation and buying assets. So that's how the system works, and that's how the wealthy get really wealthy.
You see, the best thing about doing those 100 deals is I was learning to think about debt is good. As long as you have in your mind that debt is bad, I want to use my equity, your ROI goes down.
That's a good point. And there is bad debt, of course.
Yeah.
Bad debt would be credit card debt, or it could be
if it was costing me $25.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, so there's definitely debt that you don't want to get into. But we're talking about debt that's paid by a tenant.
Yeah.
Debt that's paid off by somebody else. So that's a really important point. So if you're borrowing money, you're going to want to make sure that you have the rent to cover it.
Once again, if I hadn't done this myself, I would not understand what Kenny said.
It was a 144 unit property that was existing it was 95% occupied with tenants. So that was an important piece. And then next door it had another 10 acres. And so the deal is that I was going to build a second phase on the 10 acres, and then we were going to have one property that was 256 units. And so that's what we did. So we took the first 144 units and the land, and we went to the bank and we got a construction loan to build the second phase. And then we built the second phase, and through good management, we filled up the property, and then we went back to the bank and we refinanced the whole project and got one loan on it. So